The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, as translated by Babahari Das. Book 3, Vibhūti Pāda. Concentration, dharana, is fixing the mind to one place. In that dharana, the uninterrupted flow of mental effort is meditation, dhyana. That same meditation becomes superconsciousness, samadhi, when the object alone shines forth as if there were no consciousness of the mind itself. The three, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, together are samyama. From that mastery of samyama, the light of higher consciousness dawns. It, samyama, is to be applied to the stages of practice. The three, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, are more intimate than the preceding five. Even that is external compared to the seedless samadhi. The modification of restraint, nirodha parinama, characterized by the suppression of the latencies of the outgoing mind and the appearance of the latencies of the arrested mind, occurs at every moment of the arrested mind. The flow of the arrested state, nirodha avastha, becomes peaceful through its latent impressions. The transformation of the mind that is accompanied by the destruction of multiple forms of mental objects and the appearance of one-pointedness is superconscious trance, samadhi parinama. Then again, in samadhi, when the subsiding and rising content of the mind are similar, that is the transformation of one-pointedness. By this transformation of the mind, the transformations of property, temporal characteristic, and condition of the objective and instrumental phenomena are explained. The substratum of substance, dharmi, is common in all of the states, subsided, active, or unmanifest, of a property. The distinctness of succession is the cause for distinctness of transformation. Knowledge of the past and the future comes by performing samyama on the threefold transformations. The word, the object, and the idea appear as one because each coincides with the other. By samyama over their separation, the knowledge of the speech of all living beings is attained. By the realization of latent impressions, samskaras, knowledge of previous births is acquired. By the realization of the notions, mental content, the knowledge of others' minds is achieved. The cause of the content of another's mind is not known because that is not the object of samyama. By samyama on the form of one's body, its perceptibility is stopped. Thus, there being no contact between the eye and the light, the yogi becomes invisible. By this can also be understood the disappearance of sound, etc. Action, karma, is either fast or slow in fruition. By samyama on these karmas, knowledge of death is attained, or by portents the time of death is known. By performing samyama on friendliness, one achieves the strength of these qualities. By performing samyama on physical strength, one acquires the strength of an elephant, etc. By projecting the light of higher sense perception, the knowledge of the subtle, the hidden, or the distant can be acquired. By performing samyama on the sun, knowledge of the region, solar system, is achieved. By performing samyama on the moon, one acquires knowledge of the arrangement of the stars. By performing samyama on the pole star, knowledge of the movement of stars is attained. By performing samyama on the navel center, knowledge of the organization of the body is achieved. By performing samyama on the pit of the throat, there is cessation of hunger and thirst. By performing samyama on the kurma nadi, steadiness is achieved. By performing samyama on the light in the center of the head, from Anya to Sahasrara, one acquires vision of perfected beings. Or by intuitional insight, pratibha, everything is known without samyama. By performing samyama on the heart, knowledge of the mind is achieved. Sattvic mind and self, Purusha, are absolutely different. Experience of pleasure and pain arises because of non-discrimination of their separate natures. That experience in Prakriti exists for another, i.e. Purusha. By performing samyama on the self-interest of Purusha, one acquires knowledge of Purusha. From that samyama on self-interest arises intuitional knowledge and supernormal powers of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell. They, the foregoing powers, are impediments to samadhi, but in the worldly state they are supernormal powers. By loosening the causes of bondage and by knowing of subtle passages, a yogi's mind can enter another's body. By mastery over udana prana through samyama, a yogi can avoid contact with water, mire, and thorns, levitation, and gains the power of leaving the body at the time of death by will. By mastery over samana prana through samyama, a yogi's body becomes radiant and effulgent. By performing samyama on the relationship of the power of hearing to ether or space, one attains the power of supernormal hearing. By performing samyama on the relationship of the body to ether, or by fusing the mind in the lightness of cotton, the power of levitation, walking through space, is attained. By performing samyama on fixity of mind when it is held outside the body, a state called the great disincarnate, mahavideha, the thought wave becomes real and all veils over the inner light are destroyed. By performing samyama on the elements as gross form, generic form, subtle form, inherents of gunas, and the purpose, one gains mastery over the elements. From that, one gains the power of becoming as minute as an atom and other supernormal powers, as well as perfection of the body and non-obstruction of its functions by the elements. The perfection of the body consists of beauty, grace, strength, and adamantine hardness. By performing samyama on the power of cognition of the sense organs, on their real nature, on the egoism involved, and on their purpose, one gains mastery over the senses. From that mastery over the senses, one gains the power of rapid movement like that of the mind, the power of perception without sensory apparatus, and mastery over nature, prakriti. One who recognizes the distinction between consciousness and pure objective essence achieves supremacy over all states of being and omniscience. By non-attachment even to that, these powers, the seed of bondage is destroyed and liberation is attained. There should be avoidance of attachment of pride, the smile of satisfaction, on being invited by the presiding deities lest there be a revival of ignorance. By performing samyama on the moment and its order of succession, one acquires discriminative knowledge. Thereby, by discriminative knowledge, two similar objects, which cannot be differentiated by class, characteristic, or position in space, are distinguished. This discriminative knowledge is transcendental, including knowledge of all aspects of all objects, and is intuitional, having no sequence. Kaivalya, absolute liberation, is attained when an equality of purity is established between the self, Purusha, and the objective essence, Sattva, or purified mind.